going to work on a solo arrangement of The Girl from Ipanema. This was actually voted on over at my Patreon page, where every month I do a different tutorial based on suggestions from my patrons. So if you'd like to help decide next month's tutorial, be sure to check it out in the link in the description below. There you can also find download for this tab, as well as other lessons, including a new series I just launched called Ukulele Jam Kit. So if you haven't checked it out, it's all down there in the description. But let's go ahead and start with The Girl from Ipanema. And what we're going to start with here is some finger picking for this sort of bossa nova type of sound. We're going to start by using 4 finger picking, which means we're going to be using our thumb on the G string, index on the C string, middle here on the E string, and our ring finger on the A. And what this is going to allow us to do is pluck each of the 4 strings all at the same time. If you look at the beginning of the song here, we play 0, 0, 0, 5, playing that 5 with the pinky here on our fretting hand. We'll then pluck our C, E, and A strings together, omitting the G, with our index here on the 2nd fret of the A string. And we'll do that twice. And we'll play open, so just taking off that index. And then to finish measure 1, we place our pinky back on 5. To continue on with this, we're then going to let that ring into the next measure. So you'll notice that the 0, 0, 0, 5 here at the end of measure 1 is tied into 0, 0, 0, 5 on measure 2 with parentheses around them. That actually means to hold the chord ringing during the beginning of this next measure. So we're not going to play it a second time. It's just written there to let you know that for the first half of a beat for the measure there on 2, we're going to just hold it. After we've held it, we're going to go back down to 2 on the A, and we're going to pluck that with the C, E, and A strings together. We're going to play that 3 times, finally playing all open for the last note there on measure 2. To just keep on rolling, here when we get to measure 3, we're going to bar all the way across 2 with our index, and add our pinky finger here to 5 on the A. We're going to pluck all 4 strings. And then we simply remove the pinky, but still keep the bar there on 2, and pluck that twice. Then we're going to pluck the G string 2nd fret with our thumb, and that's actually the melody note. So if you're playing on a high G ukulele like I am, that melody note, an A note, is the 2nd fret built in here, which is really nice. If you're playing on a low G ukulele, you'll have to either use 5 on the E string or open on the A. But after we play that 2 on the G, we add our pinky back onto 5, pluck all 4 strings, and then to finish now going into measure 4, we're going to pluck the C, E, and A with just the 2, so taking our pinky off 3 times, and then the 2 on the G, again for that melody note. And that finishes the first 4 measures. So here's what they sound like in time. And this song's got this really cool kind of bossa nova beat going on. So if when you're practicing, if you're struggling with that, you can work on counting out or also just listening to both this arrangement as well as other arrangements to try to get it in your head. But here's measures 1 through 4 in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Pretty nice. Now we're going to go on to measure 5. In measure 5, we're going to start with this cool chord. We're going to add our middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the C string, index finger here on the 1st fret of the E string, and our ring finger is going to go out to the 3rd fret of the A string. We're going to pluck all 4 strings. Then we're going to remove the ring finger and pluck our C, E, and A 3 times. So it has. Then we're going to play the open G, which again, high G, really nice to get that melody note. If you're playing a low G, you could play 3 on the E instead to get that same note. Then we go on to measure 6, a little bit of a tricky chord, I think. Bar all the way across 1 with the index finger, and then add the middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the A string. We're going to pluck all 4 strings. We're going to play 3 on the E with our ring finger, but we want to make sure that we're holding this bar so that we can get that continued sustain with that chord. We're going to play that 3 times, and then the last note of measure 6, we're going to play the 1. All that we do is take that ring finger off, and the bar should still have it there. Now from here it goes on to measure 7, which is the first ending of this first melody section. So we're going to play 0, 0, 0, 2, just our middle finger here on 2 of the A string. And then we're going to do a nice little arpeggio. We're going to play C, E, G, A, G, E, being the strings that I'm naming, all while holding that one chord. And then into measure 8, you leave your middle finger here on 2 of the A string, and you add the index back over on the bar. And if you do this at the beginning of measure 8, it makes it so that the 1 on the C, the 1 on the E, the 1 on the G are all built in, and then finally you pluck all 4 strings, and you're already there. So measure 5, 6, 7, and 8 should sound something like this. 2, 3, 4. Now at this point, it repeats. We go back to measure 1, into 2, and then into measure 3, 4, and then 5 up, 6. Now instead of going on to 7 again, we now go to the second ending here, measure 9. So we skip 7 and 8, and we go to 9 and 10 instead. Measure 9 is actually the same as measure 7, so we're going to play that same chord, the 0, 0, 0, 2, and then C, E, G, A, G, E, C, and then going into measure 10 here, we see it goes C, E, G, and then pluck the whole chord. And that sort of ends the first little melody section of the song. And so 9, exactly the same as 7, and then 10 being new, all on that chord. From here, as we go into measure 11, it's really starting the next section of the tune, and we're going to be using this little picking riff throughout these parts. And I really like it as sort of a standalone, almost bossa nova picking pattern. What it is here, we're going to start on measure 11, bar across 1, add the ring finger here on 3 of the A, and it's all about the right hand, what we're sort of picking here. We're going to pluck all 4 strings, and then you'll notice they're all X's here, which normally means a chunk, but there's no strum direction. So in this particular case, what it's actually going to refer to is this sort of stop pick, where we're going to take our picking hand and we're going to set it back onto the strings, and we can use the nails to kind of click the strings just a little bit as we do this. So we pluck it on the beginning of 11, and then we set down to create that little percussion. And then we're going to pluck it again, and then we're going to mute it again. But the timing here on measure 11 is what's really important. We're going to pluck on 1, and then we're going to mute on 2, but then we're going to pluck again on the and of 2, and then we're going to mute finally again on 4. So it's this sort of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and this really cool sound. And this is what it sounds like when I count it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And what's neat about it, again, this is going to be played many times throughout this song, so it's really important to get comfortable with as you look ahead in the tab. But it's something that you can do if you wanted to play this song with somebody else, for instance. If you want just to try to play chords while they play melody or sing it, it can sound really good to just do this. And I like to use this for a lot of different songs that I want to jazz up, whatever that chord progression might be. It can just sound good adding this little rhythm. So even though that doesn't have a lot to do with this song, this rhythm we can take elsewhere. It's really, really quite fun. So measure 11 sounds something like that. As now we go into measure 12, we're going to play 4 on the A string with our pinky finger. So if we keep that bar there, well, notice that fits out nicely. And then we can play 3 with our ring finger, and then 1 still on the bar, and then 3 on the A, and then 1 still on the bar. So measure 12, we've got that. So that we can hear it though, here's measure 11 and 12 so that we can really start to get that feel. Going now into measure 13, we're going to start with our pinky here on 4 of the E string. And then we're going to pluck one of my favorite chords on the uke, 0, 1, 0, 1. Index finger here on the 1st fret of the C string, middle finger here on the 1st fret of the A string. Pluck all 4 of those strings. And then going into 14, holding that chord, doing our cool little bossa nova rhythm. So we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Same exact rhythm that we did before. So pluck, mute. As we go into 15, we're going to go to a different chord, 4, 4, 4, 6, bar all the way across 4 with our index finger, add 6 with the ring finger. And it's the same rhythm as before. Pluck, mute. Same exact rhythm. As we go into 16, we hold this sort of shape, and then we can play 7 with our pinky on the A, 6 with our ring, taking our pinky off, 4 with our index barred, so take off the ring, and then go back up to 6 with the ring, and then 4 with the A on the index finger bar there. So measure 13, 14, 15, and 16 should sound something like this. And you can hear that it sort of echoes the earlier part. So now we go to measure 17. And here on measure 17, we're going to slide down to a neat chord. We're going to play our index finger here on fret 1 of the C string. And we want to use our ring finger here on fret 2 of the A. So we have 0, 1, 0, 2. And there's a really important reason why we're fretting it like this. And that's because the next chord, the 0, 4, 3, 4, we want to take this ring finger and we're going to slide it up to 4. And then we add our index to 3 on the E and our middle to 4 on the C. So we get that ring finger to actually slide up to that next position, which is pretty neat, right? Then we go on to 18. Same rhythm with this chord. We do the pluck, mute rhythm, which is quite neat. Then we go on to 19, and on 19 we're going to play a new chord, 5, 5, 5, 7. So bar all the way across with the index finger, common theme today. Ring finger added to 7 on the A. Pluck, mute. Same rhythm that we've been doing, that same little bossa nova sound. And then on to 20, we're going to hold this, play 8 on the pinky, and then 7 with the ring. Take the ring off, the index is barring there to get the 5, and then 7 with the ring, and then 5 with the bar. So 17, 18, 19, and 20 should sound something like this for the vibe. Now as we go on to measure 21 here, we're going to play a chord that's familiar because we played it earlier in the song. 0, 2, 1, 3. We're going to take our middle finger, place it on the 2nd fret of the C string, index finger on the 1st fret of the E string, and our ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the A string. We're going to pluck that. And then leaving all 3 of these fingers on the strings they're currently on, we're going to slide them up so that we get 5 with the C string, middle finger, 4 on the E string with the index, and 5 again with the ring finger on the A string. So it's the same strings, we just slide up to that position. And then on 22, you guessed it, it's the bossa nova rhythm again that we're going to do, which again, I just love the sound of this. And that's strike, mute, strike. Now, the interesting thing is, we're not going to mute on the 4 because there's going to be some new stuff happening. It's going to ascend the fretboard. So after we've done this, we're then going to move up to 7 and then 8 on the A string. And I like to actually use my ring finger on this just because it's sliding up already from being there on the A string. And then here on 23, it gets a little bit tricky because we have to go all the way up to 0, 11, 0, 10. I like to play this with my ring finger here on the 11th fret of the C string and my middle finger here on the 10th fret of the A string. It's one of my favorite chords on the ukulele. It's actually just an E minor chord, but with the open strings combined with very high, it sounds really rich. We're going to pluck our C, E, and A together. We're going to play this little run. We play open on the G if you're playing a high G. If you're playing a low G, you got to find it somewhere else. 3 on the E works, for instance. But us high G players, open on the G, then take our hand off completely, open on the A, 2 on the A, 3 on the A, 5 on the A. Now, there's a couple different ways you can play this. You can do just like what I did here of index, middle, and pinky for the 2, 3, 5. But it makes the next chord a little bit tricky to get to, the 0, 7, 7, 6. So if I do it that way, it looks like that. The other way that you can play it that's a little bit more inefficient at first, but makes it a little bit easier to get to the chord, is to play 0, 2, 3, 5, all with the index finger, so that you can just slide that index finger one more up to 6 and add those 2 7s. And that chord on 24 is quite tricky, but a little tip is make sure that you're sort of twisting your fingers to make room. So this finger goes there, this one goes here, and this one goes here. You'll notice that I sort of slant the fingers towards my right shoulder. If I try to keep them too straight up and down, it's a little bit more difficult. But it's a tricky chord. It's one that takes a bit of practice. But at 24, what's nice is we do our exact bossa nova rhythm. So that's a bit of a doozy, this stretch of 4 measures, but it should sound something like this. Now, as we go into 25, it's actually some of the same in terms of its spirit, it's just a little bit different execution as the previous measures we played. We're going to play 0, 5, 5, 7. So we bar across the index finger on 5 of the C, E, and A, covering the C and E specifically. And the ring finger is going to be 7 on the A string. And we're going to pluck all 4 strings. And then just like what we did with this high chord, and we had this kind of ascending line, we're going to have another ascending line here. Only this time the way that we play it is we're going to play the C string, 5th fret first, then the open G, which is already there. Then we take everything off, play the open A, 2 on the A with the index, 3 on the A with the index, and then slide that index up one more to the 4, and add the 5 on the C and the 5 on the E to get that same chord shape that we played just a minute ago. And that's why sliding the index can help with getting that, getting it just right. And then on 26, with this chord, we're going to just do our little bossa nova rhythm. Now, what's really cool is if you look ahead here on 27, 27 should look familiar because it's actually the same as the beginning of the song. So we're going to have some cool repeats here. But just so that we can hear it, here's measure 25 into 26 before we go on to 27. Something like this. And that sort of sums up this next section of The Girl from Ipanema. It sort of has this almost A-A-B-A type of form. And you can think of the first A as measures 1 through 8, and the second A as measures 1 through 9 and 10, where you do the second ending. And then all of this has been sort of the B section, ending now at measure 27, where it goes right back into the A section. So measure 27 and 28 and measure 29 and 30 and 31 and 32 is very familiar because it's exactly the same as measures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's exactly identical, which is pretty neat. From here now, though, after we've played 32, we go on to 33. And 33 should look familiar because it's the same as measure 7. We go with this chord here. That same arpeggio, exact same thing that we played earlier. But 34 is a little bit different because what it's going to do is go back to this chord where we leave our middle finger here on 2 of the A and we bar all the way across the index and we play all 4 strings. And then we're going to play 2 on the A 3 times and then open on the A, just taking off the finger. So 33 into 34. But then you'll notice there's a repeat sign right here. And this repeat sign that's listed is with a 3 times. So we actually play this a total of 3 times instead of the typical 2 that a repeat has. Now we don't go all the way back to the beginning of the song. We just go back to measure 33. So we go 33, 34, right? And then we repeat it. And then a 3rd time. But then after we've done it the 3rd time, we go on now to measure 35 for the last 2 measures of the song. And to play this, it's actually pretty straightforward. It's going to be that same chord that we played at the first on 33, just the middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the A string. Then we're going to pluck G, C, E, A, and then G, C. And then to finish it all off on 36 here, all that we do is slide our index finger up and bar across the 7th fret of the E and the A string, leaving the G and the C open. And we can pluck or strum. It doesn't really matter, because it's the end. It's whatever you want to finish off that song. So measure 35 into 36. Sounds like that. And when you do this last run through, 33, 34, repeat the 3 times through the end, I like to slow down a little bit. I think it sounds more romantic to do that sort of sound. So measure 33 with those 3 repeats into 35 and 36 with some slowing down might sound something like this. So that's using some pretty heavy slowdown there, but sounds really nice, and you can kind of play with it to see how you like it. And there you have it. There is The Girl from Ipanema in its entirety. The song is meant to be repeated in different ways, so you can go all the way back to the beginning and play it through a second time if you'd like. It was a lot of fun working on this one, and it actually took some tweaking to get the rhythms just right to the way that I wanted to play it, but I had a ton of fun with it. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them down in the description below. I make sure that I look through those to make sure if anybody has any questions, I can do my best to answer them. And if you're interested in checking out more lessons like this, please check out my other lessons here on YouTube. I've got a whole song tutorial series, and so if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Those really help, and if you haven't already, check out my Patreon page, linked in the description below, where you can find the tabs for this, as well as over 30 other songs. So take it easy, have a wonderful month, and I'll see you guys next time. Can't wait to see what you vote on over at Patreon. Thanks so much.